Hello and welcome back to another video by Public Media Solution. My name is Arsh Lakhani. We are Public Media Solution. We are India's third largest PR agency. And the topic that I want to discuss with you today is essentially to talk to you about what the PR industry looks like moving forward in the future. We've spoken about what trends affected the PR agencies and the kind of PR and editorial coverages in the past. Now we're going to sit down and focus entirely on what the future for public relation holds. So without waiting too much, let's just jump right into it. One of the first things that's going to affect the PR industry moving forward is the idea of a human touch. So up until now, the entire PR market usually worked on subtle promotion, right? So if you had a product or a service, you would create a public interest story in that product or service and then expect people to sort of jump into it and lean into what your product or service offering is. However, moving forward in our perspective, a human element, a human touch is going to be a lot more important, especially in order to get these sort of editorial coverages. And one of the main reasons for this essentially is that when you lack that human element, when you lack that personal element, especially with this new whole AI concept which has come in, which has sort of exponentially grown the amount of content available in the media, we have to now start creating a more of a human touch and emotional approach to the kind of PR content that we're going to be creating. The second thing that's going to affect the PR agencies and the PR market, especially from a client perspective, is going to be the factor of transparency. So up until now, we were essentially reaching out to a target base of customers, a target base of viewers and readers, talking to them about what we are doing. However, moving forward as the industry moves and grows, we are also going to have to talk about how we are doing what we are doing. Right? They want to see that element of transparency to say that, okay, if this company is, telling us that this is a new product or service that they are launching, they also need to show us the story behind it. They also need to show us the kind of authenticity and trust behind the product or the service. This is going to be a super important factor to build that trust and credibility factor moving forward in the coming years in the PR industry. Alright, so factor number 3 is going to be social media. Essentially, up until now, what was happening was we used to keep public relations as a separate vertical and we used to keep branding and social media and content writing as a separate vertical. However, as the industry grows, we are now going to have to merge these two verticals. To think about it from a factor of if Times of India is publishing an article about me, we should also be looking at it from a more social media perspective. How am I going to be placing this editorial coverage on my particular social media platforms, on my own media? How am I going to be placing my own media? That is the idea from a social media perspective, to say that yes, I have received the coverage, but rather than me just leaving the coverage out there for people to find it when they search about me, you are also now going to have to proactively start showcasing your coverages. The work that you have done and the sort of success that you have gotten through these coverages will now be able to grow when we start putting it from a social media perspective, when we start promoting it. I say promoting it with air quotes, but promoting it in the sense of saying that this is something that will affect the PR agencies and the PR industry moving forward, to say that if you have gotten a coverage as an edtech company in an educational focused article or an educational focused editorial publication, we are now going to have to start placing that into your social media platforms, sort of collaborating that with influencers to now start being able to get a better viewership and a better readership on your specific article. The next factor that I want to talk to you about is a data-driven approach to public relations. Up until now, what was happening was that agencies would create the article for you, they would get the coverage out for you, and that is where we used to draw the line. We essentially could not up until now tell you the kind of viewership that you were getting through this article, the kind of audiences and the way that they were reacting to your particular article, right? However, moving forward, especially agencies like us, we've collaborated with international partners, we've collaborated with multiple companies to now help you garner this in-depth understanding of the kind of value proposition that your PR article or your editorial coverage or your press release has brought toward your company's growth and the growth towards your company's revenue, right? So up until now, the idea was that ROI can never be integrated into a public relations campaign, especially because it never had a call to action. Still doesn't have a call to action. However, there are now tools and analytics in place for agencies like ours to be able to give you a more success-driven, data-driven approach to the kind of coverages that you will be getting. To talk about the elephant in the room, you know this topic was going to come up, which is the AI infusion in the PR industry. It is essentially made content development and creativity sort of streamlined in collaboration with agencies, right? Up until now, agencies would have teams and teams of journalists sitting down, in-house journalists sitting down and curating content to then send out to certain media platforms. Whereas now, a lot of agencies do is create a list of 15 to 20 topics which would interest the audiences and the editors and the journalists of certain media platforms based on the kind of work that your company is doing. This essentially means that with this new sort of advancement in AI technologies, with ChatGPT, with Bard AI, we are now going to have to proactively start tweaking it, because at the end of the day, when everybody is a superhero, no one is, right? So when everybody can create a lot of good content, how can we as an agency create better content is one of the most important factors that is going to be affecting PR and public relations agencies and the kind of work that we do moving forward as a trend in the upcoming year and the upcoming 5 years. The next point that I want to talk to you as an agency to an agency perspective is going to be the necessity to upskill ourselves as an agency. What has happened is, when you take a very traditional approach to public relations, wherein you're just simply cold emailing or cold outreaching to journalists hoping that they would pick up your story, one of the major problems that you will face is that the client is now starting to get a lot more advances from other agencies that are letting him or her get featured in 72 hours and get published in 48 hours editorially, right? And the only reason that they are able to do this is because they have insanely adaptive tools in place to help them secure these coverages continuously, right? So for example, hypothetically, if you are an agency with about a 15 to 20 people team who is just outreaching to the media hoping to get a few coverages in place, in comparison, you have another agency which is just a 5-person team but has these tools in place who can reach out to thousands and thousands of journalists at the same time, you're not going to be able to win. Right? So it is necessary for us as agency partners, as agency owners, as agency developers to now help understand that where the industry is going and how do we upskill ourselves so that we can cater the best results to our clients. As I mentioned a few points ago, social media is a very big aspect of public relations trends moving forward in the future. One of the major aspects of that is LinkedIn thought leadership. A lot of the times what happens is we would have our clients and we would have our partners and we would give them authored articles as coverages, right? Thought leadership articles as coverages, which again was a factor of saying that, this is some of the work that we've done and it is now out in the media for somebody else to go ahead and find it. However, to now strategize from a social media perspective, especially from a professional networking website such as LinkedIn, we're now going to have to start integrating our public relations articles, our thought leadership articles, and utilize those with separate content as a thought leader establishment on LinkedIn. This is going to be extremely important, and one of the reasons that this is going to be so important is because in a world where everybody's trying to speak, to have a platform where people actually listen is a very, very big differentiating factor, right? So for us to be able to give you that opportunity as an agency can only happen when we as an agency are capable of managing separate verticals at the same time as we are able to. The next point that I want to talk to you about as part of our industry trend analysis is influencer collaborations, but subtle influencer collaboration. So for example, if I have an editorial placement in Bloomberg or in the New York Weekly, I would then, as an agency, then find a few influencers to go and review that article, or just utilize that article when they're talking about a certain product or a feature, to say that, this is an article that I read in the New York Weekly, and showcase that article to show that what you bring to the table as a subject matter expert is then being utilized with influencers to then influence their audience in the right way. So the strategic approach here essentially is to, one, stick to your editorial coverages, but then utilize a network of very target specific influencers to then promote that article very subtly to their audiences, to say that, okay, I read this article, or I read about this person, or I read about this, which is now being utilized as a reference to what I'm trying to explain to you, right? So this is going to be a very important but subtle product placement, which is going to be a very big differentiator factor for your clients in the future. One of the other factors that we can discuss now is an approach towards community building. So the idea here is that not only should we start promoting and writing content about ourselves like we usually do, however, we should not now start creating, saying that, okay, this is the work that we've done, and these are the 7 or 8, even if it's a small community, right? These are the 7 or 8 people that have followed us, and look at what they have done with our small product or our service, and promote that specific content. Because see, ideas sell. Right? So when you see these 7 people talking about some product or service that you've used, and then utilize that as part of a media coverage, one, there is a lot of transparency and authenticity to the work that you are doing. Second, you are utilizing a community of already pre-established people who will then go ahead and start promoting your article either way, right? And the third most important factor here is to say that when we start utilizing a community factor, it starts to become an automated process. Your community starts to do things which you as a company owner appreciated them through their PR articles, right? So the idea here is trifold. It is a sort of a domino effect which will start taking place when you start having that, even if it's a smaller community, to have a PR focused towards that community. I personally believe is going to be a very, very big and important factor as an industry trend moving forward. A good thing which is now coming on as an industry trend is sort of paid media, but subtle paid media. They would not sort of promote that content as a sponsored article. It is just a non-disclaimed article. However, one of the advantages that you will get is the ability to track analysis and the kind of reach that your article has had, because it is a paid article. See, where we stand today, there is absolutely no way that you are going to be able to track or gather any data on an editorial coverage, because you have no access, right? Even though there are some tools in place, you have very limited access to something like that. But when it comes to a paid promotion, it is very similar to what you would run on a Facebook campaign or a Google PPC campaign, which will give you a proper approach to say, this was what your target demographic was. This was the age group that we targeted. These are the kind of people that have read your article. These are the kind of people that have shared and commented and liked on your article. And these are the kind of people that you should be targeting more in the future, right? So this analytics approach can now start coming in through your non-disclaimer PR articles, essentially not editorial, but also not sponsored. So that's a very thin line that is now sort of started to show up in a lot of these media platforms, which are now giving us as agency owners the ability to track the performance of your article, the performance of your coverages over a course of 1 month, 5 months, 6 months, 10 months, or a year, right? Which will give us a very data-driven approach once again towards doing our future PR campaigns. Relationship building meetings. I cannot stress how important this has now become as we're moving forward in this industry. Not only is it important to once get an editorial coverage out for your client, but it is very, very, very important for them to be introduced to the journalist as part of a relationship building meeting. The reason for this is the journalist is flustered. They may or may not pick up one of your editorial coverages if you're lucky. However, that is where they draw the line. But in an other end of a spectrum, if you just introduce them to your client, right? Let their mind work to say, okay, I'm writing an article into the fintech sector, Arshad introduced me to a fintech client of his. Let me see if they can give us an industry story or an industry code. This is going to be a very, very big differentiating factor, because now more than ever, the journalists have unlimited options to choose from, but that also gives us an advantage to be able to give you that human touch and that human factor. To say that, okay, yes, you have so many different options of people pitching to you, but why don't you come and just have a quick conversation with somebody who's actually trying to give you some insights about their industry? RBM's relationship building meetings are going to be one of the primary focus that PMS as Public Media Solution as an agency will focus on moving forward in the next couple of years. YouTube interview opportunities. As an agency, we've tied up with multiple media platforms such as Economic Times, Times of India, Times Now, Forbes, Vogue, GQ, Entrepreneur India, Elle magazines. We've tied up with a lot of these major media platforms to help you get onto a platform where you are able to speak. right? Now, the reason why we've started to do this is because a traditional approach would have been to send your client on a television interview. However, the problem that we're facing, and I'm sure that other agencies are facing as well, is that their clients are going on live television for a total of 3 minutes or a total of 4 or 5 minutes, which doesn't really give them the opportunity to really speak and to showcase the work that they have done. In comparison, when you do a YouTube interview, one, you get the option of taking multiple takes. Second, it is more important to understand that these interviews last for about 20 to 25 minutes, which gives your client an ample amount of time to go ahead and say, this is what we've been doing and this is what we've been up to, and these are our 5-year plans and these are our 10-year plans and these are our key factors that are going to affect our particular market, and these are our investors and how we're going to be helping them and how they are helping us, right? So the idea is that when you have a platform for about 20 to 25 minutes to sit down and actually speak to the journalist face to face, and then to be able to publish that on a reputed source of media. However, even though it is on a YouTube platform, these are actual genuine sources of information, such as Times and such as the Vogue and the L and the GQ. These are very, very renowned sources of information and sources of media, which will build that trust and credibility for your clients and for yourself. As some of you may know, one of the primary focus that we as Public Media Solution do is to focus on foundational PR campaigns. We try to create a base in the media for a lot of our clients, which then helps them get published in a lot of bigger industry-focused publications. Moving forward, our approach is going to be focused more towards the industry-focused publications, because we're going to be moving on towards a more ROI-focused public relations campaign. This means that if you are a healthcare professional, we would, rather than giving you an article in the Times or to give you an article in something like Hindustan Times or Times of India, we would now focus on giving you an article in something like NDTV Health, right, or ET Healthline or something like that, a Healthline mainline article focused directly towards your audience, so that we can give you a more targeted ROI based approach. Secondly, one of the most important things that we're going to be focusing on is to take, not only give you our knowledge from a PR perspective, but to take your knowledge as a subject matter expert and to utilize that as authored articles, build authored accounts for you on these key media platforms, so that you have a platform to communicate with these people, these audiences who are continuously reading it and are a very targeted niche towards what you're trying to serve to them. So that is going to be one of our major differentiator factors moving on, which is authored articles, subject matter expert authored articles we published in very industry focused niche publications. Corporate social responsibility. A lot of our public listed clients, or a lot of our clients which are now doing and starting to do corporate social responsibility, CSR activities in the media, and we're publishing about those in CSR based publications or mainline based publications. A lot of the times what happens is that because these are bigger organizations, they tend not to focus too much on the kind of PR that they're trying to get, right? So they would essentially put out an article that says, this is what we've been doing and this is what our CSR plan is, or our objective for the next 5 years is. However, our approach is going to be now slightly towards combining all of the previous points that I've spoken to you about, including influencer management, a data-driven approach, social media influencers. Not only that, we're also going to be now focusing on, even if it's a CSR activity, we're going to now combine all of these factors to give a more targeted approach to the right audience at the right time, right? So even though a lot of media publications already do pick up CSR activities quite simply, quite easily, because again, there's a very, very big public interest in them. However, our approach is now going to be a more data-driven approach. I think that is what the PR market needs now. I think that is what the clients also require at the moment, which is to have a more data-driven analytical approach to our public relations campaign, including their CSR activity promotions. Industry collaborations. One of the things that we as an agency usually focus on a lot is to help not only our clients build media publications and reputable sources of journalists as part of their community, but we also try to host events for them. We try to hold exhibitions in the sense that if you're an HR client, if you're in the HR and HR tech industry, we would try to host events in that space, inviting more HR professionals from that region to come and visit and listen about your product or service that you're offering. One of the primary reasons for this, apart from growing the revenue stream and growing the business as a whole, is to garner and build those relationships for your client, so that it is a lot easier for them to bring on more people as part of their industry stories, to bring on more collaborators as other business partners, to come together and to build that initial community that we spoke about, to come together, build that community and get those coverages rolling from a more ethical standpoint, from a more interested standpoint for a lot of our consumers waiting to read about something like this. SEO, search engine optimization, is going to be a very, very important factor. This means that even the press releases are going to be tweaked to have the right keywords. They're going to have the proper analytical tools in place to give you the right amount of approach. Up until now, one of the basic press release approaches has always been send across your press release. We will submit it to 130, 150 different media platforms, and this is worldwide, right? So we will publish it to 150 different media platforms, and you will be getting a basic report with your links published out in the media, right? Moving forward, it's going to be saying something more towards the fact that yes, we're doing 150 publications. Out of these are the top 30 publications that you got. This is how quickly it got you ranking in your Google search results. These were the most important keywords that were sort of tagged along with your article, and this is how it affected your Google search engine optimization and your SEO ranking in comparison to what you were before the press release. And all of this will be done in a matter of 48 hours, and I think that is going to bring a lot of value addition to our clients moving forward. Video content storytelling. When you work from a perspective of public relations, it has always been looked upon as content, right, which is word content. However, people are now starting to move away from reading towards listening and viewing. People have a goldfish now, sort of that goldfish approach to say that, okay, we have 30 seconds, show us what you got, right? And for that, I think video content is going to be a very, very big focus area from a public relation agency standpoint, to create these, even if it's a short video, or to take shots from an interview, to create sort of customized content based on products and services, to then go ahead and publish this in a very quick manner, in a very goldfish manner, to go ahead and show it to the right audience at the right time, in the right place, in the right way, right? So I think video content storytelling is going to be a very, very, very important differentiator now that everybody is focused on consuming video content rather than consuming word content. A recent trend that we've noticed, and I personally believe that a lot of companies should be focusing on, is to put a spotlight on their own employees, right? It has been a negative year from an employee standpoint for the past couple of years. However, it's now been coming into focus to say that if you as a big organization, or even as a smaller organization, are creating content and publishing content with a focus on the employees that have helped build your company, it is taken on in a more positive light when it comes to consuming that content from a reader's perspective. Right? It is easier for you to go ahead and say, this is what my business is and this is what we do. It is more important for you to say, these are the people that are responsible for my business and this is what we do, right? So I think that is a good approach to take when you're creating content from a perspective of creating positive content and a positive news story in the media. I hope I could bring you a little bit of knowledge to the table to give you a bit of an understanding about what we could bring to the table for you as an agency. As always, we are always available. You can just drop us a comment down. You can reach out to us over call, over email. We will always be available to answer any questions for you and to help build your PR campaign to give you a better approach towards growing your business. Thank you very, very much for watching, and I will see you next time.